Do you know what the fish knows?
Who the fish knows?
All right, today we're looking at rebreathers because you know that I can't afford a rebreather, so I found very rich friends to give us a little tour. Chung chung!
Hi guys, how are you doing? At the end of this video, I will let you know my bank account so you can send money to me to pay back the rebreather because I'm in serious debt.
You're gonna open a Cash App for that?
Yeah. Go fund my hobbies.
Go fund my hobbies. This is for those of us that don't know anything about CCR. We're beginners here, so.
So we have here the new Choptima.
Is that what the...
That's the real name.
Is that what the rebreather divers call it?
Yeah. You need to...
But you have to...
Yeah.
Why?
Choptima. I don't know, but it's what they say here. There's a Choptima, so I would call it Choptima.
But why the pop?
Because it's, how do you say, glamorous?
Glamorous?
A little bit of...
Tell us, what is a rebreather?
Okay, so for the ones that they don't know what is a rebreather, rebreather is a different system or way of scuba diving, and actually it's pretty old. If you go back to the beginning of rebreather diving, came from the military especially, and basically a rebreather or a CCR, closed circuit rebreather, is a unit that recycles the air that we breathe. It's like a closed loop of air with some like controllers, some computers that would add some oxygen, other different gases into the loop, but basically you are breathing the same loop of air all the time. You don't exhale bubbles into the ambient. Okay,
so what equipment? Obviously we have the Choptima. What does that entail? So what do we have laid out here?
Okay, so this is the rebreather itself. This is the entire unit. It's breaking in pieces because every time we end like a cycle of dives, we need to put everything apart, clean it up, store it in a safe place, and then build the unit back before another dive. We have checklists, we have a lot of stuff to go through, but here we have only the rebreather. Now we need also scuba equipment just to put on a diluent tank or another different tanks.
And where does this get mounted on the equipment?
So this is one of the few chest-mounted rebreathers. Most of them, they are like back-mounted. We have ghosts.
The door randomly opens, so it's the Mexican ghosts. Stay.
So yeah, most of the rebreathers, they are mounted on the back. Some others, they can be mounted on the side as a side mount with another tank on the other side, but there's a few on the market that they are mounted on the chest, and this is one of them, the chest-mounted Choptima.
Is the one on the side that rings a bell, is that the KISS Sidewinder?
Yeah, it's the Sidewinder.
Okay, that's like the other really cool guy.
The really cool looking guy, yeah. And also you have the SF2, there is a check unit that is back mounted, but with some modifications can be mounted on the side.
What does this allow you to do? Why do people use rebreathers?
Right now, I think the tendency is for photographers, videographers, like most of the documentaries on Netflix, BBC, like underwater documentaries, they are recorded with rebreathers. The why is because you can get really close to the animals in the water, because you don't exhale bubbles, but also the autonomy that you get underwater, like longer dives. With the Choptima, up to 4 hours in a single dive, and without getting out of the water. Longer bottom times, less deco, if you do like decompression dives, depending on the gas that you use on your back or on your side. Because you can do trimix.
That's what I was wondering, because I know nothing about trimix. So you can take trimix with
Yeah,
this.
you can take trimix.
And does that go in the diluent?
Okay.
Is that how you pronounce it? Diluent?
It's not my language. I don't know. I call it like diluent. The main difference with the Choptima, and for example, I'm gonna talk a lot about the SF2 because the other unit that you use to dive. So with the SF2, you have the rebreather, okay, like the unit on the back, it's back mounted. You have a cylinder with pure oxygen and another like 3 liter cylinder for the diluent. Then you need your bailout. Bailout means something goes wrong with the rebreather, with anything. You can end the dive in an open circuit. Okay, so you need to carry enough gas to switch to an open circuit in the deeper and longer part of the dive. Okay, so on the worst point scenario for the dive, the rebreather failed, you can jump into the bailout and do the decompression stall. With the Choptima, the benefit is that you use the bailout as a diluent, so you don't need to carry an extra gas. And makes sense because in a 90-minute dives, you can use like 100, 200 psi from the diluent. So it makes sense to use the bailout also as a diluent because the gas that you are using is minimal, it's nothing. So you don't need to carry an extra 3 liters tank mounted on the unit just for 300 or 200 psi. You can actually take it from the bailout. You kind of touched on this, but how does it affect decompression limits? The way that a rebreather works, just to make it like super easy and simple to understand, this is a nitrox blender that you carry with you through the dive. And it's gonna provide you the perfect blend for any depth where you are. So when you dive on nitrox 32, for example, you dive with nitrox 32 the entire dive. Here the blend changes through the dive. Deeper you go, you ascend, the rebreather is going to be changing the blend of the gas that you are breathing. You are breathing nitrox all the time, but different nitrox. How does it determine, like, do you set a partial pressure of oxygen that you're going for? I'm glad you asked that question. Oh gosh. Yeah, you have a controller. Sorry, I get super excited for no reason. So what you have is a controller, a computer that is connected to the unit, and you have to set points. And the set points is based on the PO2, the partial pressure of the oxygen. So for TDI, that is the agency that I did my training, the maximum PO2 allowed for the dive is 1.3. Oh. It's the maximum for oxygen. So. Oh gosh, the ghost is back. Ah! Goodbye, ghost. We don't have Sam and Dean to help us with ghosts, so we don't want to mess with that. I have my salt, just to salt it and burn it. Okay, so where were we? So we are talking about the set points. Let's say that you want to breathe a continuous partial pressure of 1.0. Okay, that is what you set on your computer. So through the dive, you will be breathing continuously, no matter the depth, 1.0 ppO2. Is diving closed circuit much heavier? And do you have to adjust your weight a lot? No. Really? No, not necessarily. With the Choptima, you can travel with the Choptima on a backpack. Wow. Weighs like 15 pounds, like 7-8 kilos. The SF2 was like, I don't know, maybe 15 kilos. So if you have like a back mounted, because they have also a back plate where they are mounted, then you need less weight. Or with the Choptima, it's a plastic bag. Yeah. You know? It's not heavy at all. Then we have the scrubber. This is 4 pounds of sophomore, but that one becomes neutral. So when the unit is completely set and on, it's pretty much neutral. But that's specific to this. Like there are lots of rebreathers that are very heavy. Okay. You mentioned mounting it. So do you need a special harness or BCD to dive with this? What you need is a BCD with a couple of D rings on the shoulder plate and a couple of D rings here on the on the lower back. Like,
Lower back.
yeah, what you have is a couple of clips here on the top and another two at the bottom with some bungees. So it's mounted with the one on the top here on the chest, on the shoulders, and then the other two is on the back.
The shape of this makes me laugh.
It's nice.
You have a sweetheart neckline.
I know.
It's a really wonderful gown.
It's nice. I should be like shirtless to have all my hair like.
I can't see.
Don't listen to her. You're beautiful.
What about dive computers? You mentioned that you have a dive computer here.
Yeah.
Is this a special for rebreather diving dive computer or?
Yes, I have another petrel, the 2.
That's the 2?
Yeah, the
and
1.
This is the 3.
This is the 3.
Okay.
So the 3 has a special connection, okay, to get connected to the unit.
Okay.
To read the partial pressure of the gases. And this is a backup. So
Okay.
you need a second computer as a backup.
Right.
Okay? And imagine that through the dive, or you are planning to set a point of 0.7 PO2. The computer, the controller, is going to be changing and fluctuating because you are breathing and metabolizing oxygen. When you descend, the partial pressure, because the ambient pressure increased, the partial pressure is going to increase and eventually it's going to get down again. So if you set 0.7, it's going to fluctuate here. On your computer, you set also 0.7 as a PO2. So you have a reference just in case you need to bail out. You pretend, or the computer is going to assume that you've been diving on 0.7 all the time. So both of them, they are going to match the no decompression limits or the decompression stops.
I have a question.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is.
If you have a look here to the head of the scrubber, what we have inside is 3 cells or oxygen analyzers. Like the one that we use for analyzing nitrox. Okay? You have 3 cells inside, another one that is for the hood. It's another controller that you have.
Oh.
Okay, this is really fancy. And then you have a solenoid for the oxygen. So you set your controller at 0.7. The cells inside the head are going to read how much oxygen is on the load that you are breathing. Because we metabolize the oxygen, when the level is lower than 0.7, the controller is going to trigger the solenoid that will inject oxygen.
Okay. So it's fluctuating, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
Okay, that's what I got lost on. I thought it sounded more like a
No, I mean
little adjustments.
Yeah, especially when you ascend or descend because the partial pressures change a lot. Then yes, for example, we start the dive with a lower set point than the ones that we will use at the maximum depth. If you set like 1.3 as an initial set point, that is equal to breathing 130% of oxygen.
Okay.
So right at the surface, if you begin the dive with 1.3 as a set point, the solenoid is going to go crazy. It's going to be injecting oxygen and it's not going to work because at the surface you cannot breathe more than 100% and you set 130.
Right.
So if you're at the surface, the solenoid is going to be trying to reach 1.3. It's not going to work. So you need to wait until you go down and the partial pressure increase will affect the gas that you are breathing. So you start with a lower set point to save some oxygen at 15, 16, 18 meters, 60 feet. You switch to your higher set point. And now, because you have a lot of oxygen like flushing into the unit, the partial pressure is going to pick up. And sometimes it goes even in red, even to 2.0, 2.3, just for a second, for a peak, and then stabilize.
But going back to the computer, would you ever use just like a regular dive computer as a backup? You know, like say my Sunto D4i.
No, it has to be a computer that allows you to bail out, to switch from closed circuit to open circuit or bail out.
Okay.
It has to be compatible, not connected to the unit,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to be a computer that
has that function.
Has that function of a closed circuit.
Okay. So it doesn't need to be so fancy that it can connect to all of this stuff, but it needs to be fancy enough to understand what all of this stuff is doing.
It's doing, yeah.
Hey!
Because you need to mimic the dive.
Yeah! Rebreathers for dummies!
You are ready to buy it. Yeah.
Ready to buy.
You want to buy mine?
No, I don't think it's in the cards for me.
We have the solenoid, we have an oxygen cylinder that is injecting oxygen because we metabolize it through the dive. The result, the chemical reaction of metabolizing the oxygen is carbon dioxide. Okay, so we have CO2 and we are breathing a continuous loop of air. So we need a way to clean that air, and that is where the scrubber came to play. We have a sophnoline, that is the base of calcium, and what that does is basically to remove the carbon dioxide from the loop that you are breathing. Normally they say that every 1 pound of sophnoline you have 1 hour of diving.
And how much can fit into that container there?
This is a 5 pound.
Okay.
By manufacturer is 4 hours, but then
conservative.
Conservative. But people with way more experience, and later they have that rule that 1 hour per pound.
Okay. And that stuff comes in this kind of container. So where do you get this?
We import them from States, from California.
Of course.
Okay. You can't find them here in Mexico. They are not cheap. I mean, I think this is like 40 pounds. With taxes, everything here in Mexico is like $280 for 40 pounds.
Can I touch it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh, man.
But you need to say Choptima.
Choptima. Ah, okay.
For the ones wondering, because every 4 hours of use, we throw it away. We need to dispose it. And because that is one of the questions that I had a long time ago, if it's bad for the environment, but it's not, it's calcium based, so we just disintegrate. It's like the structure of the coral. So
okay, so do you throw it in the garbage?
Yes, or garbage. You can use it on the garden, for example, but in Mexico we don't have gardens. In Baja we have cactus.
We have cactus.
Do you want to have a look to the counter one?
Sure. Ooh la la. Ooh. Sexy.
You have two different ones. One to breathe in, one to breathe out.
Wow. Fancy. Okay. This is cool. So, Mr. I never clean my gear.
Well, it's pretty clean.
You're taking care of this, right?
Yeah, pretty clean. Like, yeah.
Well, you've only used it, what, for
10 days?
10 days.
Yeah, 10 days in a row. Yeah. It's pretty clean. Also, well, on the counterland, you have a exhaust valve, like the ones on the dry suit.
Okay.
It's the same one.
Oh.
Okay. So it's actually a dry suit valve.
Oh, okay.
Then here you have the oxygen valve. Okay, it's connected to the oxygen cylinder, so you can inject manually. You can operate the unit manually.
Okay.
Okay, or you can just let the solenoid to trigger and inject whenever it needs. Here on the other side, what we have is called ADV. ADV. So it's the automatic diluent valve. Maybe I just made up that name, but something along those lines.
We'll take it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Here is where you connect the diluent. Okay? And also you have like a open and closed valve.
Oh, it moves. There we go.
Yeah, it moves. So, for example, when you are in the water and it's not connected, the LPI is not connected, it has to be in closed position. If not, you can float the unit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and that is bad news. Yeah. That's really bad. If we open it through here, inside what we have is like a regulator. Works exactly the same as a regulator. Okay? So when you breathe in, if you don't have enough air on the loop, if you pull, you trigger the valve and you inject diluent into the loop. Again, you start at the surface with a good amount of air on the counterlands, but when descending, the air is going to compress, so you need to add volume of air to the loop, and you don't want to add only oxygen, because if not, you can tox out.
Yeah.
So you use a combination of breathing and activating the valve, like triggering with your breath, or you can also push and inject manually.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. So it's almost like you have to, like in dry suit, you have dry suit squeeze, right? So it's the same thing. You have to make sure that you're not getting a squeeze in the system.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm learning stuff. That's very exciting. Okay. So then where does this one go?
Okay. This is for the breathing loop.
I always feel like this looks so stupid on people.
That looks super badass. Like, really cool. I mean, I go to the gym with that on my mouth, just to look cool. So this is the breathing loop. So we have the connection to the counter lamps here on the sides. Okay. I mean, actually it goes the other way around.
Okay.
So now it's in open position. Every time you come to the surface or you need to bail out, first thing is to close the loop so you don't float the unit. You have on both sides you have a mushroom valve with one flow direction. So when you exhale, the air goes only in one direction, in one of the counter lamps. And when you breathe in, on the other direction. So one of the check that we need to do on our checklist is a flow breathing control to make sure that the air flow on the right direction. This is the mushroom valve. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
ooh, nice.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So it's only one direction.
Yeah.
The loop is connected on the counterland on the top. You have the counterland and you have an exit at the bottom. Scrubber goes here.
There we go.
So the air goes through the scrubber, through the head of the rebreather to analyze the percentage of oxygen, remove carbon dioxide, and then, if necessary, inject oxygen.
Okay.
And then you breathe.
Through there. There we go. There's the system. I wasn't putting together where the scrubber was on this unit. Okay. There we go. We got it. We got there eventually. And then what are these?
I don't even know. It came with the unit. And I don't know what to do with them. They are the external battery for the solenoid and for the hood. You can breathe your PO2 on your computer. Okay? You have the monitor, you have the 3 cells, you are reading the 3 of them, so you have 0.7, 0.7, 0.69, because they have different readings. But also you have a 4th cell on the unit. That is something that is different from the SF2. On the SF2 you have only 3 cells reading by the computer. Here you have 4, so it's more redundancy. And the 4th one is connected to the hood that is placed on the breathing loop. So you can see the hood through the entire dive.
And what is that? What does it do?
You have shiny and pretty light. Okay. Actually, let me...
Is that a disco?
It's a disco party.
Oh.
It's a disco party.
It is a disco.
Now it's doing it's running a test.
Yeah.
To make sure that everything works. because it's a low PO2, okay? Because now nothing is connected, it's flashing in red.
Yeah.
When you are breathing your lower set point, let's say 0.7, it's going to be flashing in yellow or orange. Then if you set your higher set point, say 1.3, okay, it's going to be green lights. And if it's 0.3, 1.3 is going to flash 3 times. If you descend and your PO2 picks up because the partial pressure and goes beyond what you set on your computer, it's going to flash 4 times or 5 times if you are at 1.5, 1.6. It's going to flash in red if you go over 1.6.
So it's not doing anything to the system, it's not changing anything, it's just an indicator.
Yeah, and then you have on the back, it's called like a friend light, because you can see if something is wrong with my loop, if I'm breathing the wrong
And that's
gas.
literally right in front of your face.
Yeah, it's in front of your face. And
so you see the 3 dots in the back, and your buddy sees the one.
The one that you see right now.
Oh.
And if mine is in green, you will see green. But if you see red, it means that something is wrong with my unit. So it's an indicator for you.
Cool.
So that's really, really cool. And honestly, it doesn't bother at all to have the flashing lights on your eye. Oh. Burning.
Burning. My battery's dying. Yay! Intro to Rebreathers. Whee! Are you gonna vomit again? Pobrecita.